Alright, welcome to my class, my accounting gurus. Today we are doing question 2 from Free State September, which was prelim paper 2 2024. Yes, it is inventory valuation and problem solving. 30 marks in 20 minutes. So sleep easy mattresses. Les Lazy owns a mattresses shop which sells mattresses to the public. The financial year ended 31 August 2024. They make use of periodic inventory system for all mattresses. They value the mattresses using the fee for first in first out method. 2.1, we are required to calculate the rent value of the closing stock. So we are using FIFO to calculate the rent value. So meaning that the value of the value of closing stock using FIFO method. So remember guys, I told you, I gave you the formula for FIFO. This is question 1. This is the formula that I gave you. So we are going to do our 2.1. 2.1.1. So remember the formula. Remember the formula. It is closing stock unit, no, bottom month units, bottom month purchases units minus returns multiply by unit price. Please Timolo or mute your mic. Multiply by unit price. Then the second step is closing stock units minus net purchases. So we know that the difference between bottom month purchases units minus returns, we are going to get what you call net purchases. So this next step says closing stock units minus net purchases, close bracket, multiply by subsequent unit price. So we add carriage per unit if we have one. So when I tabang, this is the formula. I need you to look at this and observe everything that I will be doing there. Don't want to hear you again struggling to calculate this. So you get value of closing stock. So let's start now. So if we go there, we see that, okay, this is the information that we are going to use. We have our bottom month purchases. Remember I told you the bottom month purchases unit is this one. The last month, the last one, the one at the bottom. You see, we have 28, right? 28. Then the formula says minus returns. Let's go and check number B. They wrote returns, and we use the units, guys. They say a total of 2 mattresses were returned. So our returns are true from May 2024. Remember I told you don't just minus the returns, you should check your bottom month purchases units. If the data are the same, you will minus, or if they didn't specify the date, you minus. So minus 2, close bracket, multiply by what? By the unit price. When I'm talking about the unit price, I'm referring to this one, the last month unit price, or the bottom month purchases unit price, which is what? Which is 7,000. Do we have any carriage per units? No, we don't have. So we move to another step, this one now. They are saying closing stock units. Closing stock units is always where there's a question mark. This one, you see, the root closing stock, which is 31. So this is 31. Yeah, 31. Remember, the difference between bottom month purchases units minus returns, we get what? We get the net purchases. What is the net purchases? What is the net purchases? The difference there is 26. 28 minus 2, we get 26, right? That 26 is what we call net purchases. 26. Then we go and minus it here according to this formula here. Minus 26. Multiply by what? By subsequent unit price. Subsequent is the month that follows the last month, this one. I hope, Tabang, you are listening very well. 8,000. So when we put in a calculator, let me put this in the calculator. And see how much are we getting there. 28 minus 2, we get 26. Multiply by 7,000. We are getting this 182,000. 182,000. Go to the second one. 31 minus 26. We are going to get 5. Multiply by 8,000. We get 40,000. You add the 2, you get what you call value of closing stock. Plus 182,000. This is what you get. 122,000. This is what they mean when they are saying the rent value. This is the rent value. This is the rent, meaning the amount, the value of the closing stock. So sometimes they will just say value of closing stock or rent value is the same thing. So we move to another question, second question. So I hope this is loud and clear. We go to 2.1.2. 2.1.2. Let's discuss the 4 mattresses, including the closing stock figure, were damaged due to the burst water pipe in the storeroom. Let's suggest the stock valuation method be changed to weighted average method before recording this loss. So calculate the rent value of spoiled mattresses according to the weighted average. So now they are saying we should use weighted average to calculate what? To calculate this. So now we know that the formula for weighted average that I gave you guys is opening stock plus purchases plus carriage on purchases minus returns. We use the amounts this side, or values. Use what? Amounts. Then divide by opening stock plus purchases minus returns. Here we use units. So now our opening stock is this one, because they hold opening stock here. So we are going to write what? We are going to write that amount 233,400, 233,400 plus purchases. You see the row total purchases here. We have the purchases, right, which is this one, 778,000. 778,000 plus carriage on purchases. Plus what? Carriage on purchases. Let's check, do we have carriage on purchases? Let's see. They wrote something about carriage on adjustment B. They said the carriage of 152 per mattress was non-refundable on these returns. On these returns. So let's see. Okay. So if you check, we do not have what? We don't have carriage on purchases, so we are going to say 0, right? So minus the returns. So they are saying that we have 2 returns, right? As we can see. So these returns are for May 2024. So we are going to calculate our value of returns from May 2024. Remember, we use the returns multiplied by what? By the unit price. So the unit price is 7,000. But since you can hear that they said the carriage of 152 per mattress was non-refundable. When you see non-refundable, meaning that on this return, we have to minus this. You have to minus the 152 from the 7,000. So 152, we're going to say 7,000 minus 152. You are going to get 6,848. 6,848. 6,848 multiplied by 2 returns. So whenever you see non-refundable, meaning that you minus the what? The carriage from what? From the unit price. This is the unit price. Minus it. Why are we minusing on May? This returns and this carriage was for May, because they are saying a total of 2 mattresses were returned on May purchases. The carriage on of 152 per mattress was non-refundable on these returns. On these returns, you see this carriage affects what? The returns. So because of non-refundable, you minus the 152 from that 7,000. So now we are going to get our returns 2 times 6,848. Then we are going to get this much here, 13,696. 13,696 over. So now we are using the units. Opening stock, our opening stock, so at it's 40, right? As you can see, our total purchases is 111. 40 plus 111 minus returns, which is 2. So let's see What are we going to get? Then we put this in calculator, right? Let's put everything in a calculator. 2, 3, 3, 400 plus 778,000 plus 0 minus 13,696. You get this much here. 997,704. Then let's check. This is the total values or total amount. Let's check our units. Plus 11, 11 minus 2, we get 149. This is the total units. So 997704 divided by 149. We are going to get this. This is what we call cost price per unit. Then now we multiply it by what our closing stock according to the formula, because the formula says equals to what you will get your cost price per unit multiply by closing stock units, right? Not yes. Then our closing stock units, as you can see, is 31 again. It's 31, but let's read the statement, what the statement says there. The statement says calculate the rent value of spoiled. So now we are focusing on spoiled. Then they are saying how many? 4. They said less discovered 4 mattresses, including the closing stock figure, were damaged due to the burst water pipe. So 4 is what 4 was what spoiled. So we are going to say multiply by what? By 4. Then we get what? The rent value of the spoiled times 4. Then we get 26,784. 26,784. We are done. Then we go to the second question. We're done with this one. Explain how this will impact the actual figure you will show as a loss. Quote figures. So now, this is very important, guys. What you can do there, so you can compare this with your people. I hope you can hear what. So now this question paper, there's no missing stock. They didn't ask us to calculate missing stock and cost of sales. So let's create our own question there. So let's do a missing stock there and cost of sales. Cost of sales. So we know cost of sales that we use the formula of obvious palesa can run a company, right? Meaning that obvious is for opening, palesa is for purchases, can is for carried on purchases, R is for returns, company is for closing. So we use amounts again. Don't forget, we use amounts. So the formula is opening stock plus purchases plus carriage on purchases minus returns minus closing stock. So our opening is this one here, which is 233,400 plus purchases, which is this one here, 778,178,000. This purchases plus carried on purchases we don't have. right? Which is 0. Then minus what? Minus returns. So the returns are 2, and returns are for which month? Are for May. So we go to May, we are going to take returns multiply by what? By the unit price of May. But since we have carriage of 152 per mattresses, that was non-refundable on this returns, we should minus the 152 from 7,000. 7,000 minus 152. If you see non-refundable, you must go and minus those carriages there. 7,000 minus 152, we get 6848. 6848. So we are going to multiply the 6848 by 2. 2 times 6848. Then we get what you call our returns there. 2 times 6848. Get this. Minus closing. Our closing is how much? Remember, we calculated our closing using FIFO, 222,000. We are going to use 222,000. 122,000. So let's check in our calculator what will be our cost of sales. 233,400 plus 778,000 plus 0 minus 13696 minus 222,000. We are going to get this as our cost of sales. Then missing stock. Let's get missing stock. Missing stock. So the formula for missing stock says obvious Palisa run small company. So which is opening stock plus purchases minus returns. Obvious Palisa run small company minus sales minus closing stock units. So we use units on what? On a missing stock. To calculate missing stock, we use what we call units. So let's check our opening stock here. It's what? It's 40. 40 plus purchases of what? Of 111 minus the returns. The returns of what? Of 2 minus sales. Let's go to adjustment C. They are saying 118 mattresses were sold. So 118 minus closing stock. Closing stock is 31. Then let's see how many missing is there. 40 plus 11 minus 2 minus 118 minus 31. We're going to get 0. Missing. So there were no stock that was missing. So if they can ask you, since you have calculated and you've noticed that there were no stock that was missing, this shows that the internal controls that is applied there is very effective So what might be those internal controls? It's very simple. Division of duties, stock count regularly, physical security at the point of exit. This shows that these internal controls are stronger, so no one was able to steal. So now we can say calculate what a gross profit. This is sales. You have your total sales here. Gross profit, right? Gross profit. We know that the formula for gross profit is sales. Sales minus cost of sales. We calculated our cost of sales. Again. So our sales is given here. Our sales is given. And imagine, we have just calculated it. This is our cost of sales, and the cost of sales is given, the total cost of sales. Do you see that here? It's given. So, but we calculated it. This shows that we are in a correct way. So, it's our cost of sales. So, minus sales. They are saying 118 mattresses were sold at this price. So, what you are going to do, you are just going to multiply these two. You are going to say 118 multiplied by 11,000. 118 times 11,000, you get your sales. This is your sales that you will get. 1,298,000. So now what are we going to get for the gross profit? Sales minus cost of sales. We are going to get what? Let's check. 1,298,000 minus our cost of sales, right? We are going to get 522,000.
Sir, could you please share the screen?
Oh, thank you. So the difference of sales and cost of sales, you are going to get 500,000, 500,000 and 522,296. Then let's calculate the markup percentage markup. So the formula, guys, it's gross profit divided by cost of sales, right? And we got our gross profit is this one. It's gross profit divided by cost of sales multiplied by 100%. So our gross profit, we just calculated it here, 522,296 divided by cost of sales. Remember, we calculated our cost of sales above there. This one. So let's see what are we going to get. So then 4 multiplied by, we're going to get 67%, which is not bad. So now we can say let's calculate stock holding period. Let's use average stock holding period. Average stock holding period. Then we know the formula for average stock holding period, right? And I said let's use the units always when we are doing this one. So in days, so it's the formula is 1/2 opening stock units plus closing stock units divided by sales units or sold. Multiply by 365. So our opening units is what? Our opening units is 40. 40 plus the closing units of what? Of 31. It's 31. Let's see. Divide by sales units. Go to sales. The units for sales. How many units sold? 180. 180. Multiply by 365. Let's see how much are we going to get there. Let me do this. 40 plus 31. 40 plus 31 divided by 2. Okay. Let me do this. 1 divided by 2. Then goes open bracket. Let me say 36 to be 36 here. Divided by 118 times 365. How much are we going to get? 6 divided by 118 times 365. I'm going to get this days. Which is not good. So let's calculate using closing stock. Stock holding period using closing stock. So the formula is closing stock units divided by sales times 365. So in days. So our closing stock is what? Is 31 divided by sales of what? This is our sales here. Because 13 sales 118 times 365. How much are we going to get? 31 divided by 118 times 365. We're going to get 95.8, which we round it off to 96 days. Yes. So let's calculate stock turnover rate. These are all the questions that are examinable, guys. These are all the calculations that they can ask you in the exam. So the stock turnover rate. Turnover rate. So I believe you'll master this. No one should struggle when it comes to these questions because we did everything. So stock turnover rate, the formula is cost of sales. Cost of sales divided by average stock, which is 1/2 opening stock plus closing stock. So our cost of sales, we calculated it. Also, it is given here, 775,704 divided by 1/2. We use the amounts this side. Use the amount. So opening stock is what? It's this one. 233,400 plus closing stock, which is how much? We calculated it using FIFO, right? Calculated it is this one, 222,000. 222,000. So when we put in a calculator, our answer, it must be times 5704. Right. Okay, let me do this one. Plus 222,000. I'm going to get this price here. 455,400. So 775704 divided by 455,400. We are getting 1,7 times. Equals to 1,7 times. We can round it to 2 times. So stock turnover rate means that how many times it takes us to sell the stock. At what rate are we selling the stock? So we are done with the calculations that are possible. This is what is asked in the exam. So now we are going to internal controls now. This is the question that we are moving to. 2.1.2, second bullet, right? They are saying explain how this impacts the actual figure you will show as a loss quote figure. Remember, they are referring to this part when we are calculating the rent value of spoiled mattresses, of the damaged mattresses according to the weighted average method, right? So we calculated it and found what we found. So now they are asking us how this will affect the actual figure. So it's very simple. What we can say there is that we can check, because we calculated it, right, the weighted average. So when they say comment quote figure, you must talk about that weighted average that you calculated there. So this is the weighted average, right? Where is it? This is the weighted average. This is the weighted average that we have calculated. But now we are going to talk about this cost price per unit. Remember I said this is cost price per unit. So now this is the cost price. So when we are going to comment there, you are going to talk about that cost price per unit. So it's what? Weighted average price. So we are going to say weighted average price, right? Where is it? We are going to say weighted average price is what? Remember we calculated it. Weighted average price is 6,696, 6,696 again. Then lower than lower than two batches of FIFO. So when they are talking about two batches of FIFO, remember they are referring to this one, the two batches of FIFO. They are meaning that these 2 months here, January and May. So which one? The cost price. They are referring to the cost price of FIFO. These two here, two batches of FIFO. When you add these two, like individually, like the two batches of FIFO, it is lower than, you can just say lower than the FIFO price, lower than FIFO price, FIFO total cost price, total cost price. So the total cost price of these two batches, you are going to say 8,000 plus 7,000, right? This is what we use according to the bottom up, that formula. 8,000 plus 7,000, it's 15,000. See, 15,000. It is lower than this one for FIFO. So this is what you can say, right? Also, you can conclude by saying that the stock loss will be the stock loss is, remember we calculated the loss there. The loss on mattresses, the loss on mattresses is, how much did you got there when you are calculating the loss? Those mattresses, we got this much here, 26,784. 26,784. This is what we got, right? 26,784. Then you get your marks. Then we go to the second question. So these are internal controls, guys. You have to do a lot of past papers to understand them. So the next the second bullet, they are saying what? This one. Explain how this will impact the closing stock and cost of sales. So we are going to talk about that cost of closing stock, also cost of sales. So how does this going to affect? So it's very simple. We are going to talk about what? Your closing stock and your cost of sales. So now this will automatically reduce what? This will reduce your what? Your closing stock. And this will increase what? Your cost of sales. So we are going to say closing stock value. Closing stock value. Let's do this. Closing stock. Remember we calculated our closing stock. Closing stock value will increase, right? Will decrease from, remember we calculated it using FIFO again, and we got this. We got this much here. 222,000 will decrease. So this effect, this impact of that losses on mattress will decrease the closing stock of 222,000. 222,000 will decrease from this to what? To, it's very simple. You are just gonna take this minus what? Minus that loss. Minus that loss. Minus what was that loss, Kana? The loss is 26,784. You'll decrease it to this much. 195,216. So this is how we arrived here. This is how we arrived here. 6784. So what may we talk again? What may we say about the cost of sales? So then we can say the cost of sales. Cost of sales will increase because I said you are going to talk about this too. So the first question you should ask yourself is that, okay, since we calculated the value of what? Of the damaged mattresses, then the question they said, how this the value of damaged mattresses will affect the actual figure. So this automatically lead to a loss. That's when we talk about that. Remember, we calculated this. That's when we were going to talk about the value of closing stock of what? That price we calculated. We calculated it using what? Weighted average method. Then we got this. This is the cost price for each item. Then we compared it with what? The total cost of FIFO, which is this 2. So that's why I was saying weighted average is this price lower than FIFO, total cost. The loss on mattresses is this because we calculated it above there. So now we talk about cost of sales. What may we say about cost of sales? So cost of sales will increase from what? Will increase from, since we calculated our cost of sales, remember, and it is given, will increase from this, from 775,704. 704 to what? You add this plus what? Plus that you add this plus that that loss we calculated there. Yes. So let's see, when we calculate that loss, what are we getting? 775,704 plus 26,784. This is what it will increase to. It will increase to this price. So just know that loss leads to what? That loss of mattresses leads to an increase in cost of sales and a decrease in what? In closing stock, the value of closing stock. So this is what you should know. Then you show what? The figures, as they asked us to show what? The figures. So when we are talking about it will lead to an increase in cost of sales, this is what I'm referring to now. The cost of sales is here. So you add that loss on mattresses. It increased it. So that's why I said cost of sales will increase from what? From this actual figure to what? To this amount here. So also it decreases, just know that loss decreases the closing stock. So it decreases what? The closing stock decreases and increases cost of sales. Then we proved it by interpreting the So now let's go to the second one, to the last one. So we are done with this one. They are saying explain 2 points of advice. So now they need an advice from us. Explain 2 points of advice you will offer about changing the method of valuation. So meaning that the owner of this want to change what? The inventory valuation method. So now they want us to give the advice. Remember from the notes of my study guide, there are internal controls on why is switching why switching inventory valuation method is wrong. Because what is the person is trying to do? It's wrong, you know, it's wrong. So what can you advise this person? If you are studying those notes, remember this, what it can causes report errors. Can say number one, since they want two, right? It can causes report errors. Causes report errors. Number two, you can say it messes up comparison, or it is unethical to manipulate inventory method. It is unethical. It is unethical. It is wrong. Ethical to manipulate inventory methods. Hence, this will lead to problem in tax evasion. So this is from the notes that I gave you guys, this answers. So now we go where we are still here. We go to 2.2. 2.2 internal controls. So Disables, DJ Rock is the owner of Disables. They sell Bluetooth speakers. Bluetooth is pairing headphones and earbuds. The financial year ends on 31 July each year. DJ Rock made the following decision at the beginning of the financial year. So this is the first one. He changed the new supplier of headphone. He did what? He changed the new supplier of the headphone. And remember, I told you there might be reasons for that. There might be reasons for that. Nobody just changed the supplier. No one can just change the supply. The reason might be because of lack of what? It might be lack of quality. You see, from that supplier, maybe time. The supplier is not complying with time. There are a lot of things. So, or maybe higher cost or poor customer service. So now they said he changed what? The supplier. He changed to a new supplier of headphone. then he reduced the selling price of earbuds to 100. So he reduced this. This strategy is trying to attract customers so that the stock holding period may reduce also. So now, a set to counter a new audio repair shop that sells the same brand earbuds required 2.1.1, 2.2.1, I'm sorry, speakers. Provide 2 points which shows that the customers are happy with the quality of what? Of the speaker. Remember from the notes, like I said that they said quote figures, and from the notes there's something that I said indicators of customer satisfaction with the quality of stock. So already always when you see this type of a question, customers are happy, quote figures, one thing you should know is that there is an increase of sales, no returns are there, increase in gross profit, higher markup, so increased in number of customers. So we are talking about speakers here. We are talking about who? Speakers. So let's go and check from these indicators that I just spoke about. So now let's go to speaker. This is speaker. So we are going to check, right, returns. You see there are no returns. This shows that customers are happy. How many do they need there? They need 2 points. So number one, you can say there's what you can say. You can just say if you check, you can just say returns are 0. Returns are what? Are 0. This shows that if returns are 0, this shows that there's a good quality of products. This shows a good quality of products. Number two, you can choose to speak about the selling price per unit. As you can see, it has increased. It's there from those notes that I gave you. You can speak about what else again? Unit sold. As you can see, you can talk about the unit sold. So the increase in units sold means that customers are happy, they are buying more. So you can say units sold increased from what? From this 2000 sold increased from 2270 to 2308. We are done. We got 2.2.2. 2.2.2 headphones. Explain why it was good idea to change to a new supplier of headphone. So we changed to a new supplier of headphone. So court figures, they want 2 points. So remember, reason for changing, benefits of changing. These are kind of benefits of changing. So let's see headphones now. So we can talk about what? So meaning that we changed from this one to this. So if you see there was large number of returns, there. So you can just say about, what can you say about this one? So talk about the returns of this. So you can see it's a good thing. The returns decreased from this. So you just say units returned decreased from 15 to 5. Simple. Number one. Number two, you can talk about what? You can talk about units sold. Again, units sold, it has increased. It's a good thing. Increased from 490 to 610. You're done. Get your marks. Then we go to the last part. 2.2.3. 2.2.3. They are saying DJ Rock continued to experience problem with this product line in the financial year, even though he reduced the selling price. He reduced the selling price, but he's still facing the what? The problem of lower sales, right? And returns, higher returns, in an attempt of counter the new competition. Give 2 points of advice to DJ Rock whether he must discontinue to stop or keeping selling airbags. Quote figures. So there are many. You can answer this in, like, let's say you can just say discontinue. Should discontinue because he tried, but still facing the same challenge. Discontinue. Continue. Right? Then they said quote figures because gross profit decreased. Why should he do that? Because he's running a loss. If you go and check the gross profit there, the gross profit decreased there. The gross profit, you see, just decreased. So you're going to say gross profit, it's a loss, decreased from 55,000. So what? Yes, and 8 to 16,808. Number two, you can talk about a stock on hand or stock holding period. This one, you see, stock holding period increased. Stock holding period increased from 21 days. Which is stock? There's a lower sale of stock days to 97 days. This is bad. So we should discontinue. So this is the end of the session. For me to you, I hope you enjoyed the class. Counting has enough marks for everyone to pass. Aim for the moon. If you don't reach the moon, you fall higher, be an Excel accounting group. So guys, you might ask the question if you have questions.